In this presentation, I will talk about the modern princess and how it has been adapted in live-action remakes from Disney classic princess films, specifically about the girl boss phenomenon and how films can misrepresent modern feminism with a female protagonist. To do this, I will refer to themes of agency, autonomy, context, and love. One of the most popular Disney princess films that has been advertised and reinvented in many ways is Walt Disney's Cinderella. This film came out in 1950 and it was made after World War II, following the rags to riches storyline, rooting for the underdog. In this film, adapted from the Brothers Grimm's Cinderella, follows a young girl who has to live with her abusive stepmother and stepsisters after the death of her father, where she is made to live in an attic as a servant to the family. The character of Cinderella is very often misunderstood in a superficial way, leaving her as a character who has no agency and waits for a prince to save her, when in fact this view dismisses her context and most of her actions in the film. Cinderella is completely alienated from her family and presumably the village, as we never see her interact with the village people. She has been sent to live in an attic, even though her father was a lord, with a very large house full of empty rooms. She is also left to socialize with mice, birds, and other animals who live nearby, as she is isolated with everyone else. The first live-action Disney princess film made by Disney themselves was 2015's Cinderella, starring Lily James. This film followed directly the Cinderella storyline from the animated Disney film, and only made a few adjustments for a more modern audience. This Cinderella had met the prince previously to the ball, and therefore had more interactions leading up to their happy ending. The prince falls in love with her from her character and kindness to him. There's a difference in characterization of the female protagonist. She uses her resilience and compassion as a strength and defies Lady Tremaine directly. These changes, although small, made a huge difference for a modern audience who loved the Cinderella story and film but wanted to see the character have more agency and for the love story to be more sensical and real. Through the fourth wave of feminism came a term known as the girl boss. The term, coined by Sofia Amorosa in her book Girl Boss, is an ambitious woman who is unapologetically herself and refuses to settle for less than she deserves. The term is meant to empower women, mostly in the space of business and workplace. Although its efforts are valuable in the feminist movement, this term quickly died down to being used as an ironic criticism of shallow and superficial capitalist feminism. It was less accessible to women of color and other women from a different economic background that weren't able to have the same opportunities as white women. This also capitalized on the idea that women needed to idolize working and couldn't have it all and had to prioritize their work, leading to the commitment to work equating female empowerment in what can be called hustle culture. This characterization was represented in films like 2006's The Devil Wears Prada, with Miranda Priestly, the editor-in-chief in New York's biggest fashion magazine. She is cynical, heartless, and presented to have a poor work-life balance. From this idea of the girl boss came many feminist films that focused on women building businesses and being financially independent. So came the most recent Cinderella remake, 2021's Prime Video Cinderella, starring Camila Cabello. This film was heavily criticized from its explicit use of the girl boss ideology and major changes to the core of the Cinderella story. This interpretation ultimately misses the mark, as it claimed to be the first feminist retelling of Cinderella, but still failed to show her character actually getting things for her own effort. She's witty, quirky, and at times rude. She never seemed very interested in the prince and only paid attention to him because he could offer her help with starting her business. Even though she's outspoken in a clear way for the film to call out female gender norms, she's ultimately handed everything she wants, like the prince buying her dresses because he likes her, or the king just changing the rules of the kingdom for her to be with her son and also sell her dresses. Her character is somewhat superficial and claims to be progressive and wanting to change the norms, but doesn't actually achieve anything without other people in power handing it to her. These changes affect the effectiveness of the Cinderella story, where she overcomes her struggles and is rewarded for her kindness and compassion, as this is her strength. Following the press release of the upcoming Snow White remake came many interviews with the main cast talking about the film and its changes from the original source material. Zegler says she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be and the leader that her late father told her she could be. The interviewer and the actress joke about Snow White running for president and launching a campaign, which all in turn lead to this girl boss stereotype and this girl boss ideology of needing to be powerful, mostly in the business world, instead of just having that power within you. Snow White is one of the most popular and one of the most classic Disney films, and it's their first Disney princess film from 1937. We need to acknowledge that Snow White was a stand-in homemaker and reflection of its time, the Great Depression in the US, a callback to a time of instability and where she is rewarded for her hard work and sacrifice. To make a modern adaptation, we have to acknowledge these parts of the Snow White story from their context and turn them into modern context. A good example of a reinterpretation of this film is 2012's Mirror Mirror. In this film, Snow White is portrayed as a much older and with higher ambition to protect her kingdom after it has fallen under the hands of the evil queen. This is why the modern twist they decide to take in the film is much more efficient in giving the princess more agency and independence for a modern audience. Snow White learns to fight, where she meets the 7 dwarves and hopes to defeat the evil queen and end her reign of terror, freeing her people. Her love interest has also changed, as in this film he is meant to be married with the queen as he is put under her spell, but Snow White breaks this curse and they fight alongside in order to defeat her and her servants. Ultimately, the takeaway is that reinterpretations of classic fairy tales, including princesses and female protagonists, don't need to villainize love or men in order to be feminist. We can embrace the femininity of the female protagonist. We can embrace the traits of compassion, kindness, and respect. It's not all black and white, and we do not need to antagonize feminine traits in order to be more progressive